All right, everybody, it's Muscle Car Campy. We're here again at the Ray Skillman Collection in Greenwood, Indiana. Great place. What a place. I mean, I'm dying here. I am absolutely dying. We've got drag racing history. We're surrounded by it. A real 330 64 Dodge with an aluminum front end. Plexiglass windows from the factory. The very famous Zintmaster Chevrolet out of Kokomo, Indiana. Another piece of aluminum history. Do not lean. So I can't do my usual lean on the fender when I get in here, but total aluminum front end car, 62 409. And then again, you know I'm Mercury crazy, right? 427 AFX Cyclone from McCoy Mercury out of Rising Sun, Maryland. I mean, I don't know which car to look at first. This is 427 powered. It's got the teardrop hood. I'm going to have tears rolling down my cheeks in a second just being around these cars. You know, one thing about the muscle car era, yeah, there were a couple that turned and burned, but realistically, muscle cars were about drag racing. How fast can you go in a quarter mile? Super stock 3 426 Hemi. We bow in your general direction. Cross ram intake manifold. 425 horse rating from the factory. Get the feeling that might have been a tad conservative. I mean, I'm just looking at this and yeah, I really don't have much to say. We've got Don here from the museum. He's kind of the curator here, comes all the time. Don, what can you tell us about this car?
You know, Ray bought this car trying to take and do his drag race collection of cars here. This is a really correct car. It was really interesting on how they did these cars. You know, they were factory-built race cars. I read books where they sat there and where they would go in the evening and they would take a piece of aluminum and run it through the stamping dies to stamp these things out. It's like that's a stamped aluminum bumper stamped on the original stamp die. Mm-hmm. The same way with the grill, and the fenders are the same way. It's all aluminum.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I noticed on the inside, you know, you've got the very lightweight bucket seats,
van bucket
seats. But what makes this car unusual to me is that it's a 4-speed.
Right.
You know,
right.
A lot of these old Mopars, they had real great success with the torque flight because it was the first really high performance automatic transmission from
Absolutely.
The factory. To see one with a 4-speed, that's different.
Right. Yeah. People would order them different combinations, trying to find the best combination for their racing habits.
And some people just like a 4-speed.
Sure.
You know, there are people, I get comments on the channel if I feature a cool car, but it's got an automatic. It's got an automatic. Well, you know what? When you build yours, you buy yours, you can go get one with a 4-speed. But this one is an actual 4-speed. I love the cross ram intake with the dual quads. Oh my God, this is just an absolute honey of a machine. I love the hood to say keep off aluminum. So yeah, it's still a pretty heavy piece for aluminum. I gotta tell you, that's it's a lightweight. That's like when I lost a couple of pounds. I was still fat, but I was lighter than I was.
There's a lot going in it. It's got all the factory style braces. If you look at it, it's a steel hood just stamped in aluminum.
Mm-hmm. And now right behind you here, we have a very famous 62 Chevy, the Zintmaster 409 out of Kokomo, real Impala SS. I mean, very cool car, but again, aluminum front end.
Right.
Why don't let's pop the hood on this one and see what's under there.
Yeah, these cars here were done the same way. That this one does not have any hood springs on it. They didn't race it with the hood springs, but this is a crazy correct car, and because this one, this car still has a lot of the original paint. And it's not a actual restored car. It's been worked over a little bit, but it's a ridiculously correct piece.
Man. So, you know, this is one of the cars, again, 62, you had the 421 Pontiacs, the 409 Chevys, the 406 Galaxies. I mean, the world was just gone drag racing crazy.
It's kind of neat when they did these, that they stamped these on the original stamps, but they just used aluminum. But see, that thing still got the original ribbing underneath there, and that's all aluminum.
It really looks like a steel hood.
Yeah, it looks like steel hood, but it's aluminum.
Wow. You know, guys like Ronnie Sox and Don Nicholson were drag racing AFX and BFX Comet Cyclones in 1964. And here we have one from Ron Riley out of Maryland, the teardrop hood. Pretty soon, Don Nicholson was making funny cars out of this thing. The first flop tops were his Comets in '66, but this thing is beautiful, white with a red interior. Don, can you tell us anything about this one?
No, Ray picked this up out of the Don Fazell collection a few years back, and really nice piece of history. Not a much molested car, but it's got fiberglass bumpers and stuff on it, and preserved in the way it was raced, and just a nice, really nice piece. He's got several early 60s lightweight cars, and this had to fit that bill.
Wow. Can we pop the hood on this one?
Sure.
Here, I'll let you. Lord. Just when you close the hood, just leave me under here. I just want to get some alone time with this thing. Wow. Just wow. I mean, just look at, you know, you could see where the air comes in through the missing headlights into the big tubes. Look at the size of these things. They weren't going to let any molecule of air miss going into this giant air cleaner. And I guess the bubble, of course, was to fit this engine under the hood. And with the, I'm just in love with this car, and it's one of my favorite combinations. White with a red interior. Again, small bucket seats, 4-speed shifter, and just, this was a good looking car in any configuration. But I gotta say, this car with the teardrop hood and the 427 FE under the hood, can't be going a little crazy here, thinking about, you know, which one would you want to own? If you, the viewer, could have any one of these three cars, which one would you pick? I mean, I think I would go crazy. One day I would want to drive the Cyclone. Next time I'd want to drive the Impala, then the Mopar. I mean, this is just an embarrassment of riches here. Why don't you put it in the comments? Which car would you take if you could only have one? Which one of these three beasts would you take? This is Muscle Car Campy signing off from the Ray Skillman collection in Indiana. Thank you much. Thanks to Ray Skillman, and thanks for Bill Skillman for letting us tour this fantastic collection of cars.